Hello and welcome to the Dadler Soul sessions for January 2025. Hope you're doing all right. Hope everything's going okay with you. It's the time of the show where I do the bit like I'm on this morning, where I get to go through the menu of the show. That's what they call it, the menu of the show. And oh, there we go. I didn't know what that was. And I get to tell you what's coming up. So here you go. This is what it is. Very soon, we've got the updates from Dan Lasole. Our Uber Lord Dan Flanagan will tell us what's going on in Dad Lasole world. Alex is here with his conflict management clinic at 8:45. He'll be answering your questions that you've put to him this week. And at 9 p.m, main guest of the show today is sleep expert Nicole Ratcliffe. She has spent a long time studying and researching sleep for both adults and for kids, particularly for parents, and how workplaces can make life better for parents in terms of helping them adjust to a life with no sleep, or indeed improve their sleep and be better people at work than they are when they're in those very early days where they're not getting anything at all. So it's a really fascinating thing to talk about. If you've had sleep issues with the kids in the past, if you've still got them, if you're having issues with your own sleep, even after the kids have slept properly, then it's for you. You really need to be listening to that from 9 o'clock this evening. Our main guest, Nicole Ratcliffe, the sleep coach. She is brilliant. I've already recorded the interview, and it's fascinating stuff. You're going to love it. First of all, though, this is what happened when I met up earlier with our Dan Flanagan. It's the Dadler Soul sessions, and as is customary and contractual, we have to talk to Dan Flanagan, who's like the Uber Lord, the Grandpa Simpson, the Claudia Winkleman of Dadler Soul. And it's great to have you here, Dan. How are you doing?
Claudia Winkleman. She's got a better fringe than I have.
I mean, just about. Okay, let's, it's nitpicking, obviously.
Yeah.
Close.
I think this is fair because on the Dadler Soul Extra Time show, I always introduce you differently. So I feel this is some genuine payback, and I'm feeling a level of resentment, which is a lovely way between friends to start 2025.
And I hear your resentment, and I laugh inside.
Shall we bring this to the conflict resolution expert?
Yeah. Alex, scrap the questions that we did have. You just need to sort out our relationship. Yeah, how are you doing anyway? Are you all right? Everything going okay?
It's lovely. So I suppose the big news, is that we had a tiny flutter of snow last night. It hasn't laid. I'm looking out and it's beautifully hot and sunny.
See, this is the difference that 250 miles makes, because we had a lot of snow on Sunday here in Yorkshire, and it is now 4 or 5 days on. It's not risen above freezing yet, so it froze over, and it's been completely freezing for the week since then. And it's an absolute death trap wherever you go in our village.
Is it lush, or is it still quite white, beautiful?
It's quite white and beautiful, but it's not as soft and powdery as it was on Sunday. Now it's hard and slippy. And if you're doing the school run, or if you're trying to get anywhere at the moment, all of the kids' classes have been cancelled. Or gymnastics has been cancelled because their car park's too slippy. I think the swimming lessons are going to be cancelled. Football, that is certainly not happening. School started an hour late today because yesterday it started late because it was so slippy getting there. Today it started late because the gas had gone off and they needed an emergency gas person there. And it's like everything's in panic. And I hate it. I hate it so much. It's so rubbish.
In my day, the snowfalls were at least 25 meters deep. I went to school in no shoes, 15 miles there, 15 miles back. You think, it's icy. Great. Embrace your inner Jane Torville and Christopher Dean. Put your eyes in and skate into school. If anything, school should open an hour earlier because people have got there faster. You're not thinking this through, Jim.
I mean, I'd be happy for them to do that, because the extra hour this morning that they were at home was slightly annoying for me. Not because I don't like them, because I kind of wanted to crack on with some stuff. But yeah,
I don't like my kids. Alex, we've got some more conflict here. 2025 is not coming out how we thought it might.
But this is why, like, the vision here is so bad, is because it's absolutely white outside, but the sun's really shining, and it's glinting off, and there's too much light over here, and there's not enough light over here, and I'm having trouble adjusting it. This is not a professional setup, you will be surprised to hear.
Did you go out and make snowmen and have snowball fights and snow angels and use those bits of planks of wood behind you to go sledging down the park?
These, yes, on Sunday we did. There's a really good hill that's just at the edge of the village, and we had a very good time snowballing, sledging, all that sort of stuff. Not using these planks; these are taken out of my daughter's room because we're renovating her room, decorating her room. I'm not Lawrence Llewellyn Bowen. You'd be surprised to hear. But yeah, so we had a good time there. But if it had just melted Sunday night, it would have been fine. The fact that it's still here and icy and death-like is not my favorite.
This is, I would say, the grass is always greener, but the snow is always whiter. We don't, because I live right on the coast, so we've got that sea air, so we hardly ever get snow. Especially over Christmas, right? It was quite warm. And I think it would be really nice if it was all white and traditional. And I think that would have added to my Christmas feeling.
Yes.
Last night when it started to come down a little bit late, I thought, this would be quite good fun. I'd be concerned about going sledging, right? Because as kids, we didn't have sledges. We'd either nick the tea tray off your mum,
of course,
or we do polybagging, which is where the big kids would stick you in a bin liner and launch you down the hills. Trying to do that as a 50-year-old man, I'd end up if I'm not in action, I'd be in traction, put it that way.
Yeah. Well, one of my daughter's friends' mums did the polybag thing with like a grow bag, which is, we're all middle-aged, aren't we now?
Yeah.
And she did that, and she did get some quite good speed up going down there, and she was all right. I don't think there was any hospitalization. Some of the kids could have been. You don't realize how ridiculous kids are until you see them at the bottom of a ski slope watching someone hurtling towards them on a sledge, just standing there going, oh, okay. And it was all the kids. They were all doing that. How no one got taken out, I have absolutely no idea.
But what fun. Because then you can go home, get warm, as long as your gas hasn't been cut off. Put your pajamas on at like 3 o'clock. Have all that fresh air. I'm jealous. You're moaning about something that I am genuinely jealous about. Your white snow privilege.
It is. It really is white snow privilege. I completely see why people go to Spain for the summer. I am well up for that. Absolutely. Sorry, for the winter. I'm really well up for that. I'm completely in that camp now. I've decided it. Cold weather's not for me. I'm not doing it. Not doing it anymore.
After how many years of being in Yorkshire?
Many, many years of brutal Yorkshire winters. Suddenly I'm like, we don't have to do this, do we? We surely I could be on the Algarve or the Costa del Sol or something right now.
Work from home. We're going to do it by the Riviera.
Beautiful. Anyway, what's going on with Dad Lasol? Because actually, there is some exciting Dad Lasol news, right?
Into it. So, long story short, we launched a crowdfunder at the beginning of December. Things financially have been very, very tricky for us. And I was tossing it up and I don't know. I don't like asking for money and it's awkward. But it's like, actually, it needs to happen. So did it, launched it, and it's brilliant. The response has been amazing. And then I think we did it for 5 weeks over Christmas, and then got in on Monday, and it was a 10 grand target, so we're up to about £8,000. I was like, what do we do? We got 48 hours, but it was 72 hours on Monday. Do we extend it? Do we this? And so, well, if we extend it, then I've got to continued to bother people and continued to ask, and it felt unsavoury. I thought it'd be really nice to meet the target, but I think, is that my ego speaking? About that. So I was tossing it up, had a word with the team, and said, look, let's just let it run its actual course, and we'd have more money than we started with and be exceptionally grateful. So okay, that makes perfect sense. And then yesterday I put a final post on LinkedIn and in the WhatsApp. I think it was down to me binge watching SAS Rogue Heroes. Right. If you haven't seen it, see it. It's brilliant fun. But I was like, one last push. Let's just storm the beaches. So I put the post out, then buggered off for a couple of hours and went for a meeting. Came back, and my inbox and DMs had gone through the roof. And in 4 hours of putting a post up, we'd had over £2,000 coming.
Amazing, right?
It's early January, where people are skint after Christmas. It's a 5-week month, so you're waiting till the end of the month pay date. So I wasn't expecting anything, but the groundswell of support was incredibly moving. In the WhatsApp, it just went nuts. It's like yes. And so yeah, where are we up to as of this moment in time? And we've got 24 hours left. We are at £10,508.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. It shows the power of the community. It's a demonstration of social media for social good. And it shows what you can do if you ask. And, as blokes, we probably are uncomfortable asking for help. Probably what we do anyway. I'm exceptionally embarrassed to ask for money, but as I got to embrace my inner Bob Geldof at Live Aid, and it's like, give us your money. Obviously, Bob Geldof was a Geordie. Not a lot of people know that.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, it's incredible, and the money's still coming in. So it was, when this goes out, there'll still be a chance. So if you want to stick the link and just get us up there, it will be great, because it's not just, obviously we've got to spend some money on just keeping things open, paying the bill. The cost of production has gone through the roof, but I want to do some really positive legacy stuff. So we're going to get suicide training or suicide prevention training for some of the volunteers, and then launch another project which we help dads all over the UK and potentially elsewhere, which is we did a few years ago, but the money ran out. Now we've got the money. I think this would be a great legacy investment for those people. Go, right, we gave you our money, Dan, in the beginning of January when we were skint. What the hell have you done with it? Oh, well, it paid the rent and the insurance. That's important, but it's not sexy. If we can go back and say, this is the legacy that your help built, I think that would be a really nice testament to do. So yeah, really gracious. You've been wonderful, Lois, JP. People have been pushing it out, all the people that shared it, because I realise a lot of people are skint, so I don't expect them to pay, but what they did do is shared the film. And a big shout to Al at Foundlight York Studios for making this film, which is now, it's up for the Smiley Awards as well. So we will be asking to vote for that. So for those who don't know, the Smiley Awards are kind of like the BAFTAs for charity films. And our film was seen, and they invited us to enter, which is great. So yeah, and again, another testament to the power of the community.
Great stuff. Well done, everyone. And yeah, if you want to get onto that, the QR code's on the screen now. Just give it a little scan and go and give us some of your money for, the boring things and the legacy things. They're both important, right? We need them. We need the first to do the latter. So there we go.
You do. Yeah, sometimes it's unsexy to go, you know, funders traditionally there. Oh, do you need a new slide or some Lego? Oh, we can do that because that will make a nice photo opportunity for the local paper. Yeah, do you want to pay for a risk assessment? No. Well, until we do the risk assessment and make sure nobody dies on that slide or eating that Lego, we cannot do it.
Yeah, what kind of slide are we getting? Weird.
Yeah. Don't. It could be like that. We can slide while doing Lego.
Whoa.
Or Lego built slide.
Right. Okay. Very briefly, because we're going to run out of time. What else is going on? What do we need to know?
We've started the play dates again. So this Saturday, we are back in Brighton. February in Brighton, we are working with the Outdoors Project. So we are, for the first time in Brighton, we're going to have Nerf Wars.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Dads versus Kids Nerf Wars in Brighton. We kick off our Dads Only sessions in Worthing next Thursday. So we've got our wonderful Tyler Slade, our in-house Baywatch beach bunny, and some of the lads who now have changed their lives by running 5, 10Ks, eating healthily, sea swimming. They're going to come in and show you know what? You can change, you can do better. You know, everybody goes, oh, new year, new start, join the gym, you go for 2 and then you bugger off. But it is the power of the community and the power of accountability. So if you go along with the lads, you've got to show up. So yeah, there's some amazing stuff going on. And then we've programming the rest of the year, but we've got some very, very exciting things to do. You know, we're going to replicate some of the successful things like Spacecraft, our big event last year that went very well, but also I'm itching to do some new stuff. You know, we've had a lot of ideas coming from the community. What about this? What about that? Some new partnerships. So let's watch this space. Sign up to our newsletter if you haven't. So just pop onto dadlersoul.com, stick your email in there, and you'll be first to know. And obviously listen to the Dadler Soul Extra Time show, which is still the father of funk and foolishness with some amazing guests and some amazing music, and me thinking about weird names that I can call Jim to get him back for being calling me Claudia Winkleman.
Okay. Well, that's a tease you need just now for Tuesday lunchtime. That's when the next opportunity to see that live streamed at the same places as this is. And we will see you then. Dan, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
So there you go. That was Dan Flanagan. That's what he had to say. This is the Dadler Soul Sessions for the 9th of January 2025. We are live streaming on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch, on Mixcloud, on TikTok for the first time. Hello, TikTok people. Skibbity toilet. That's what you say on TikTok, right? That's all I can glean from it. We were meant to be on Instagram. For some reason, that's not working. But hey, we'll get it working for next time. It's all about experimenting, right? On the way, 9 o'clock this evening, Nicole Ratcliffe. She is a sleep expert. You'll be able to hear from her. She has got some fascinating stuff to say about helping your kids get to sleep, but also helping you get to sleep as well. And it's not all the same stuff you've heard before, okay? She's got a different approach to that. Alex has his conflict management clinic on the way after this. It's a clip of our friends at Audio Active shared about our Unmasking Masculinity event we did towards the end of last year.
I think there's a lot of confusion around masculinity today. I think we have social media, which provides a wealth of information that's almost overwhelming. It's really hard to pick apart what's valuable, what's relevant. You know, I just think it's confusing. Having grown up with a distinct lack of male role model, it's been someone I've worked on and thought about for a long time. I want to see more of that. I want to see more male role models standing up, talking about men's mental health, talking about men, talking about masculinity, you know?
And thank you to Audio Active for sharing that. They've shared a few clips. You can see them on their YouTube Shorts channel. Really great stuff, and it was fantastic to work with them for that event. Now then, it's that time of the day again where we get Alex on to the Conflict Management Clinic. And confusingly, you had 2 cameras on for a second there, and I didn't know which one to choose, but I think I've chosen the right one, okay?
Yes, you have indeed. I apologise. Literally got my laptop working about 30 seconds ago, and up until that point, I was on my phone as a backup.
Okay, well, there you go. This is live streaming. It's what it's all about. It's the part of the excitement. Now, people have been getting in contact. People have been asking questions. They want to know things, and you're the man who knows, right? So this one says, I recently received feedback from my supervisor that my communication style is too direct and sometimes off-putting to colleagues. How can I make sure I don't alienate people?
Okay, this is something actually that's relatively personal to me, because in the early part of my career, I was pretty much told I was doing the same thing, which was most upsetting, actually, but also a real eye-opener. So it's something I've worked on personally. Very much consider your audience. Yeah. Who are you talking to? And always try and be respectful. And it's about building trust, and when you're talking, try and be clear and concise. I am the world's worst waffler, as you probably know, Jim. We have these lovely waffly chats.
It's
You're
what
not
makes
waffling,
it
I
what
am.
it is. This is brilliant.
But it's also about, and I've talked about this before, I know, on the previous sessions, about active listening. Listen to people and understand their perspective. So something that I was taught a long time ago, which was, before you say something, say it to yourself and go, how am I going to respond to that? And that's actually quite a useful little tip, that you actually think about what you're going to say and how somebody would respond to you.
Mhm.
Yeah. But do it to yourself first. And that might, oh, crikey, I suddenly realized that didn't sound great. Yeah.
Mhm.
Always be careful about your non-verbal communication, because if I'm sitting there like this, I really don't look interested. Yeah.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what my voice says, I don't look interested. Yeah. It's also quite important to think about your tone, because if you end up talking like this the entire time, people will end up switching off very, very quickly. So it's about looking at something other than the words themselves. That's really, really important. And avoid, didn't say whether the communication style was written or verbal. Yeah. But I'm assuming it's verbal. But if it is written, probably back off on the writing. We send too many emails these days. I make a point at work, I get out of my consulting room and I walk to reception and I talk to our receptionist or our admin staff, rather than sending them an instant message, if possible. Yeah. So, really try to think how your message is going to come across and play it back to yourself. It's probably my biggest tip for this.
Yeah. My communication style has been called too indirect a lot of the time. And I have the opposite problem, where I don't like to, if I am in a position of authority, which is very rare anyway, I just don't like to get to the point too quickly, because I'm always scared of that bit. That's the
Yeah.
confrontation bit. Don't like it. Don't
No.
like it, Alex.
When you do 10-minute consultations in general practice like I do, you learn to get to the point pretty quickly.
Yes, you have to. During the pandemic, when we had to do parents' evening online, and it was a strict 10 minutes cut off at the end, that was good for the teachers to focus, but also for the parents to focus on what we really wanted to know and how.
It was brilliant. My son's school did that during COVID, then went back to the old way of doing it for one parents' evening. We all complained, hated it, and they've now gone back to being online, because they said everybody much preferred it.
Yeah.
And they got more people and they got more parents in.
Yeah.
So it's actually one of the good things from COVID.
The worst thing is you turn up to parents' evening on time and they go, "Oh, we're just running 20 minutes late." You're like, "Oh, come on.
Yeah.
I don't want to be
exactly.
sitting here waiting." Because there's only so many times I can look through this maths book.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So my teenage son and I are constantly at odds over his late night gaming habits, which affect his school performance. I know he needs downtime, but how can I help him get a better balance?
This is probably the $64 billion question in today's 2025 England and Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and indeed probably all over the world. Set time limits is my very first thing I would say. Now you're going to say, well, yeah, but how can I enforce those? Well, I'll run through a few things just to give you ideas, and then we'll recap, and that'll become obvious when I get to the end. Encourage other activities. Really, spend time trying to encourage him to take up something else. Yeah. Don't be frightened if he says, I'm bored. Being bored is not actually a bad thing. Yeah. Believe you me, as you progress through life, and you'll, I'm sure, agree with this, Jim, there are times in adult life where you are bored. So you might as well get used to it and start practicing it early. Yeah. If he's got, computer in his room, tough one, take it out of his room. Don't take it away, just take it out of his room. So he has to come out and socialize. Yeah. Even if he is sitting in the corner of the living room, the kitchen, the dining room, whatever, on his game, at least you've got some form of interaction because he's there and around. Yeah. Make sure he's connecting with his friends, try and plan some genuine family activities. But don't talk to your son about trying to find a balance between gaming and schoolwork. As I know it sounds an odd thing to say, don't talk about finding a balance, but try to encourage him to do less, or you try to encourage with him to do less talking and more actual doing. Yeah. Having a big argument about it is not going to achieve anything. Actually present the opportunities to do things. Yeah. You're the parent. At times you will make your children angry. They've got to get used to it. Ultimately, you are still the boss. And that's something, a conversation I have with a lot of my patients who are parents, who are struggling. I say, remember, you are the parent. Yeah. And as much as it's probably unpolitically correct to say, old-fashioned discipline, and I'm not talking any form of corporal punishment here, but just old-fashioned discipline is still actually one of the best things, because children without discipline become adults without discipline. And that then leads to adults with all sorts of issues.
Okay. I think that Mr. Communication here has just said, don't communicate in the middle of that.
I said, don't communicate just with words. Communicate with your actions.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Okay, I'll clarify that. Yeah. No, there's no point in having a big argument discussion about it. It's about actually providing opportunities for other things to happen. And of course, I know I've said this before. If you've got a fairly smart router, and most games these days are online, you can just shut down access to the internet to individual computers. I can on mine. I can shut down access to my kids' computers, my kids' phones individually.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it is really, it's worth bearing in mind sometimes. Yeah, you don't need to go in there with the argument. There is a positive course of action you can take, which is to create the new opportunity, as you say. And it's really good to keep that in mind when and if we can. Right, final one then. My other half is always looking for someone to blame for anything that goes wrong. It's hurtful for me and my kids. For example, she had a go at our son for getting a stomach bug. Sometimes things just happen. How can I get her to see that this is a negative way to communicate?
Do you know what that actually is? That's gaslighting.
Okay. Right.
That is what I would regard as gaslighting. Next question is, do you know where the term gaslighting comes from?
So it's from a film, is it? Where
you're right. It was a film. It was two films during the Second World War, but it was actually originally a play in 1938 called Gaslight, which was basically around a husband who isolates and manipulates his wife with the goal of getting her institutionalized. As in those days, we shoved people with mental health problems into asylums, basically. So anyway, so that's what it is. And so to me, your partner may be actually gaslighting. Whether that's intentional or not is another matter. Yeah, if it's intentional, there's a much bigger issue here, which I can't really go into. There's not enough time. But if it's not intentional, then it's about trying to get support. Try to see from their viewpoint what they're trying to say, and perhaps challenge them at the time. Let's take the example of the tummy bug. Well, it wasn't his fault. And if she says, well, it was because he was outside in the garden eating earth, I don't know. Plenty of people eat earth without a problem. But eating, if she feels it's something he's done wrong, then explore that and find out why. But it's also important to set boundaries. If she says something along the lines of, I don't know, well, you said this or whatever, you can say, well, actually, I think we remember things differently, but let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, another example, if you call me crazy, then I'm going to leave the room, which I know sounds a bit dramatic and a bit sort of, drama queen like, but actually it can be really useful to try and take back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about trying to set some boundaries about what you can say and the way you say it. This almost is the reverse of our first question, which is, your partner needs to think about what she is saying in relation to you and how it would impact you. So she needs to play it back to herself. But it's just one of those horrible things where people sometimes do gaslight without actually realizing they're not intentionally doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's often an exposure of their own what's the word I want? Frailty, not frailty, inadequacy,
Right.
possibly is a better word. Yeah. And it's just that they're scared. Take the example of the tummy bug. They're scared of getting the tummy bug. They're scared that, the house is going to be ill. So therefore they feel like they want to blame something. Yeah. And I certainly see that in my practice. People want to blame somebody or something for a reason why they have an illness. And in fact, sometimes it's just human nature. We get ill. We get things wrong with us. It happens. Mercifully, we have 21st century medicine and we can fix many more things than we could 100 years ago, even 50 years ago. So it's about avoiding a blame culture.
Well, thank you very much. Alex, once again, brilliant. Really good
No
to
problem.
hear from you. Thank you
Yep.
for coming on and helping some people out.
That's no problem.
We are very close to our main guest of the evening, which is Nicole Ratcliffe, who is the expert in sleep. So if you want to know more about sleep, then you need to stick around, whether it's for parents, whether it's for kids. She's got the whole package. She will let you know some top tips. She's coming up after this.
The best thing about Dad and Soul is the social supportive network that it provides to dads.
Losing all your inhibitions and having a good time.
Best thing about Dad and Soul is the fact that it's friendly, it's inclusive, and everybody's welcome.
The best thing about Dad La Soul is community.
All of it.
And here we go then. What better way to move into our conversation? I recorded this earlier on with Nicole Ratcliffe. I'm talking to Nicole Ratcliffe. Hello, Nicole. How are you doing?
Hi, Jim. I'm all good here in snowy Manchester today.
See, this is it. A lot of people watching this will be down south. It's like a big South Coast thing, Dad La Soul, but we are representing the north. I'm in Yorkshire. I mean, we'll not talk about the rivalry across the Pennines because
I'm originally a Blackpool girl, so
Right. Okay. So
throw the extra bit in there.
So this is difficult. So this could just be an argument for half an hour, really, unless we knuckle down to things and
Let's knuckle down.
Talk about something that affects everyone, but I think parents particularly, and that is sleep. Not only the sleep of children, the sleep of the parents as well.
Yes,
it's a big old deal, right? Sleep.
It's huge, and people it just does not get the recognition that it deserves. And I wonder if there's a part of it is because it's free. Is it one of those things that they go, well, we all do it every day, we have to, so, and it's free, so really we don't need to do anything about it. And I wonder if there's a part of it that is stopping people from kind of thinking, I need to do something, and it does have an impact negatively or positively, depending on obviously how much somebody's getting of it.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, so we're so busy sort of hitting performance targets for things or rating the things that we pay for, the luxuries in life. There's something that's a necessity. We just think, well, it'll happen. We'll go to bed. What happens, in a matter of speaking. And we'll just leave it there. But it affects everything, right? It affects your whole life.
It does. And the thing is, it's one of those you don't realize until you have that. It's funny because before I had children, I slept like an well, I wouldn't say I sleep like a baby, because sleeping like a baby is like broken sleep.
Mm.
So we need to get
saying,
rid of that term of sleeping like a baby, because that's not a good thing.
It makes no sense at all. Like,
No.
to suggest that that's sleeping in a
Like a
good
baby,
way.
up, down, up,
Yeah,
down.
yeah, exactly. And then I pooed myself.
So I had no issues with sleep. And then I had a baby, and it was like, well, everything was just taken away from me. And then once we've actually got sleep back on track, I mean, my eldest is nearly 9 now, and my youngest is nearly 5. One bad night, and it doesn't even have to be a bad night. It can just be one wake up in the night. Like last night, my daughter was up at 3 o'clock crying that her legs were hurting. You know, I feel dreadful today from that one wake up. And it's that you just don't realize. And when we look at parents that are up multiple times a night and it's unexpected, the impact that has when you think one bad night can affect you like this now, what is actually happening those first years where it's just stripped away?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where you're up every couple of hours or every few hours or whatever, and you never get that chance to really drift off properly, do you? You're always sort of on high alert.
Yeah. And it's that thing of, especially if you've got one that you know is going to be up 6 times a night, is there any point in me going back to sleep? Because as soon as I fall asleep, they're going to have me up again. And if I fall asleep and I wake up in that 10-minute point, I'm going to be feeling sick and dizzy and disorientated. Then I'm going to feel even worse than I was if I just don't go to sleep and I stay awake. And we talk ourselves into all these crazy things that we do because we're scared to actually be woken up again. And that fear of, you know, it's just awful. It really is.
Well, because you find out why they use sleep deprivation as torture, don't you? When you have young children, very small children, you realize this is really powerful. As you say, the way you feel the next day and the next day and the next day after having broken sleep is awful. And you can see why that could be used as a weapon against people by nefarious beings. Not saying babies are, but some of them are, but not all of them are.
Absolutely. And it destroys everything from your mental health, your physical health, your relationships with your partner, your relationships with your friend, your job, you know, how productive you are in your work, whether you can even do the job that you were doing beforehand. And that's something I can definitely talk about, in the sense of I went back to work after I had my child, and I'd gone from being top performer to one of the worst performers. Right. And it was like, rather than anybody saying, well, you used to be really good, now you're not good at all, rather than anyone saying, well, what's actually different? How can we support you? It was, oh, well, you're just part-time now. You're just not very good at it. You know, you've become a parent. You've lost your skills. No, there's something else that's been going on. And it is that inability to process, that inability to function, to problem solve, physical energy, you know, the lack of connection with other people, the relationships in work faltered. And it literally all comes down to that fact that you're just not sleeping. It's frightening.
It really is. And is that sort of that experience why you now do what you do?
Yes. Everything I do is because of the personal experience that I've been through. I go through something and I go, oh my goodness me, this is horrific. Why are other people struggling like this? If you can find a way to fix it, or if there isn't a way to fix it, I need to find a way to fix this. Because I look at my 2 girls and they're, like I said, they're 4 and 8 at the moment. And I go, we are saying to our daughters, you can be anything you want to be. You can be Prime Minister if you want to be. You can do anything. Are we actually telling our daughters the truth, or are we actually lying to them? Because the way society is set up in the workplace is not set up for our daughters. So we tell them all this. They'll go off, they'll work really hard, they'll study really hard, they'll go and have their career. And then if they decide that they want to have a family, society is then going to turn around and say, oh, okay, so you're deciding to have a family. All that stuff that you've just done, all that hard work, we're going to kind of throw that back here. And, you might do part-time, you might do well. We've not really got the support systems in place. So, yeah, we'll watch all the men rise above. And I'm not happy with that for my children, because they deserve equality. they deserve the right to be able to work hard and study hard and have the same opportunities regardless of what gender they are. And it be a choice rather than something that is inflicted on them by societal expectations. So yeah, that's why I'm doing it.
Okay, so
it
how
takes 17 years apparently from when research is published to change to happen. So the research has to happen right now.
Oh wow, is it that long? Really?
That long. So I've published 2 research papers. I'm just starting my third research project. 17 years will put my eldest at 25. So it has to happen now.
Oh blimey. So then explain, tell us the story then. Tell us what happened. So you were working, you had a sort of regular sort of employed job, did you?
Yeah, I did back in the day. So I was fantastic at my job. I earned really good money. I was in field sales. Do you know what I mean? I took a worst performing team, turned them into the top performing sales team. Do you know what I mean? I was very good at what I did. And I went off and I had my baby and she didn't sleep. We had traumatic birth. We had breastfeeding problems. Me and my partner my husband were just, everything fell apart. And we couldn't get any help. Anyway, eventually we did pay somebody to get help with sleep. It came down to divorce or put it on a credit card. And it worked out actually would take a punt on the credit card because a divorce was going to be more expensive. So that was literally where we were with, do we get help with sleep or not? Because we've tried everything. And that's what kind of fired a passion up. But when I went back to work, I had to fight to go part-time, even though most of the field force were part-time. I had to fight to get that opportunity. And I went back to work and I was in a field sales job. My child started nursery. And if anybody's got children watching this knows that first 4 months when your child starts nursery is just pure illness. That is it. Your child's ill, you're ill, your partner's ill, and you spend 4 months, it's about 4 months on average in this cycle of everybody being ill. And you've got to try and find a way to navigate this while you're also working. And we hadn't prepared for that thing that he would need to pick up some of the slack, which is what we all do because we get stuck in this societal expectation of the mum doing everything. So I went back to work, and because I was part-time, I could obviously still manage everything. So trying to continue doing everything at home, work part-time, which was just about paying the childcare bills, I was burning out faster than anybody could have possibly ever realized. And the frightening thing for me, especially from a workplace perspective, was I was falling asleep driving the car. So I was on the motorway because it was a field sales job. And I was falling asleep on the motorway. I was falling asleep in between appointments. I had no energy to talk to anybody. I'd sit there going, do you want help with your healthcare? No, okay. And I just sit back down. And it was like, there was just nothing there.
Yeah.
And I spoke to my manager at the time and I was saying, I'm not sure I feel safe to do what I'm doing. You know, is there another role that I can do within the business till we can get this sorted? No, that's your job description.
Oh.
Yeah. And I'm like, for me, I'm kind of going, this just doesn't make any sense when you've got somebody who is proven to be very good at what they do. Surely there is a way to utilize that person's skills within the business somewhere else while supporting them to actually get back to being the employee they were before. Luckily, it was redundancy that I managed to get rather than been fired, because that was where it was going. I was on PIPs every month, performance improvement plans. So luckily it was redundancy and I was able to use that money to study and start my own business back in 2017. And that's what I've been doing ever since. So it's just been, it started off the first few years of just helping families with babies and then obviously toddler years, because obviously again I went through trauma with when my toddler was like 2 years 8 months and came out of the cot and decided that she didn't want to sleep anymore.
Oh gosh,
like they do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody's watching this that will understand this, but something that I got very triggered with was anger. Anger that she wouldn't sleep, that she had slept, anger that, bearing in mind at this time I was a sleep consultant, anger that I couldn't get her to sleep and other people were paying me to help them to get their children to sleep. And we'd gone back to 2 hours a night again from having sleep. And that rage that comes and that fear of who you've become is quite a scary place to be. And I talk about this a lot in my work now, and a lot of places I worked with last year, one of the things they wanted me to talk about was parental rage, because it's such a taboo topic. And a lot of it comes from that lack of sleep because our brains aren't getting that chance to actually process. And we've got no ability to regulate our emotions if we're not sleeping. And what we tell ourselves as adults is, well, children can't process their emotions. I'm the grown-up. I've got to be able to do that. But we forget that we still need to actually look after ourselves, and we still need that sleep. And without it, we're pretty much as useful as a toddler, when it comes to that regulatory side of things with emotions. And we end up biting back with our children, and nobody wins. And we feel like terrible parents for it because we've become that shouty parent that we don't want to be. And it's a really hard place to be. So, yes, I do a lot of that sort of stuff as well with regards to that. So I've got the helping the families, helping people understand that actually they're really not alone and there's nothing wrong with them if they do lose it every now and then. And actually helping them understand how they can support themselves and help their children and how they can reconnect as a family. And obviously a lot with the workplace stuff to kind of go, look, we've got a bit of a problem here. We've got people coming back to work that aren't necessarily safe to do their jobs. And they want to be able to do the jobs the way they did it before. You want their experience, you want their expertise. Let's get them back to where they were. Let's acknowledge that this is something that you can help them with, that they don't understand that they need that help with because they're fighting through thinking they're the only ones that are struggling. And they don't want to be seen as failures. They don't want to be seen like they're letting people down, that they've been beaten by sleep. So they just keep pushing on and pushing on. Actually, if we can take a different view on this and say, we know there's a problem, and actually by supporting people with sleep, we are improving their mental health, we are improving their well-being, we are improving their physical health, and therefore we're improving their workplace productivity, which therefore improves their morale because they're good at what they do again. And we've got to keep that person within our environment, and we're sharing their expertise. Why is that not something that we should all be looking at doing?
I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Because as you say, it's not even a good thing to do for people. It's the right thing to do for the business as well. It's not only the right thing to do to help people if you can, but even from a very cold business case, it is you are getting these people who are trained and have been trained and have experience of working within your company back to that level that they can be and being more productive rather than at the moment, them having these roadblocks to doing it. And it seems like I'm hearing about your employers absolutely petrifying that they really wouldn't do something which was actually not only detrimental for the business, but also dangerous as well.
Absolutely. And the thing is, what frightens me with that is I actually always look back and I wonder, was it that the business didn't actually want to help, or was it that the chain going up stopped before it got to where it needed to go?
Right. Okay.
That you say it to your manager's got their targets to hit. And actually they're afraid themselves of their manager, and they can't be seen to be letting one do something and not the other. So does it even go as far as it needs to go? And again, a lot of that comes down to what do we change within the workplace? How do we support those managers to spot the signs, and how do we empower them to be able to give the person what they actually need to thrive?
So it's like a culture shift. We need to have this kind of culture shift. And as you say, when sleep is free, we don't tend to concentrate on it as much. But actually, the improvements to businesses, if all employees were getting a good amount of sleep, as you say, it self-esteem, morale, mental health, physical health, all of these things are affected by sleep. And
it is. I ran a case study last year with a company, and what we did, the results with this were fantastic. It was only a handful of people, but it was to just prove a concept, prove a theory. So the employer allowed their staff half an hour a day for a week to go through my online courses to educate themselves on normal child sleep so they could support their children to sleep better.
Mm-hmm.
And so they did it in work time, half an hour a day for a week, 2.5 hours. They went home, they implemented the strategies that they learned. They'd learned about their child and put things into place. And we watched the improvements. And their anxiety levels improved, their mental health improved, the sleep improved for the child and for the adult. And the one that really gets me, and it stands out all the time, is one of the participants said that work that had got to the point of taking 3 to 4 hours to complete and needed a second pair of eyes to check over it was back to taking 1 hour because she was sleeping.
Wow.
It's amazing, the power of sleep. And that wasn't a huge thing. I think this particular person had a 2 half-hour coaching calls afterwards just to sort of help her develop what she'd already put in place. But that didn't come from the business having to make a huge outlay. It was down to just giving them some time to learn. And they went away and implemented strategies themselves with information. And that's what we seem to be missing nationally, not just in workplaces. The education on sleep is poor, really poor. And when you go on the internet, everything's contradictory and conflicting, and social media makes us feel like we're all failing. And actually, if we can just have a national evidence-based information that is, this is what's normal, and this is how you can help your child in that normal. If something's going off this is where you can actually get some support. But this is what's deemed as within the normal range. And this is how you can support everybody. The amount of people we could help, do you know what I mean, by just telling them what's normal and helping them kind of stay within that realm is huge.
Oh, certainly. Do you find that sometimes you're dealing with people whose kids are now actually sleeping all right, but because of those experiences, they're still struggling to get a proper night's sleep?
Absolutely. And it can take years for it to actually sort itself out for yourself as well. You kind of have that anxiety that kicks around still, and you've got yourself into some bad habits, especially if there's been any trauma. People don't realize that severe sleep deprivation can lead to PTSD, and there will be people that will laugh when I say that. How can sleep deprivation be PTSD? Actually, know that the impact that severe chronic sleep deprivation can have really can lead to that kind of traumatic stress, and it can kick around for years later. It really can, and yeah, that's when you've got to get some help if that's the case.
Yeah. So, are there strategies that people can put in place maybe for better sleep, or is it something where you need to kind of tailored plan maybe?
No, absolutely not. So are we talking for the adults or for the children?
Well, let's go for adults first, because we're all adults, but it'd be interesting to know about for children as well.
Yeah. So for adults, I think one of the biggest things you've actually got to do is give yourself permission to go to bed.
Yeah. Oh dear. Oh, okay.
Not that extra episode on Netflix that we do.
I mean, having just shot through the second series of Squid Game, yes, okay, guilty, right? Okay.
We all do it because our day is taken up with everything that is to do with everybody else. And we have this pocket of time in the evening that we think is ours. And, and it is that kind of, I'll just watch one more episode, it'll be okay. But actually, because of the way night sleep is done, the best sleep you can really get for physical restoration and your immunity is that first half of the night. Oh. So the later we go to bed, the more damage we're actually doing to ourselves. So if we can actually give ourselves permission to say, actually, do you know what? I am going to feel better tomorrow if I do go to sleep at a sensible time and listen to what my body clock is telling me. Because how often do you sit there going, I'm really, really, I can feel it. But it's okay. I'll just keep watching it rather than pause, I'll watch it tomorrow. So there's a huge part on learning about that. The best way I can describe to somebody how that slump feels and listening to our body clock is pre-children, probably in your late teens, early 20s, on your nights out, there was always a time when you'd be on a night out and you'd get that, can I be bothered going to the club, or shall I just go home?
Mm-hmm.
And it normally happens around the time that you would have gone to sleep, because that's when our melatonin's kicked in, because melatonin kicks in about an hour to 2 hours before we go to sleep. It only releases in dim light. So around that sort of time when you're on that night out, just at that point, probably where you are transitioning from the pub to the club, you'd get that slump of, can I be bothered? And then you'd go out and then you'd be fine, because you'd go past it into your second wind and everything would be absolutely grand. That feeling there is our body telling us it's time to go to bed. It's fine when you're young, but when you're older, it's not always a good thing to go past it. So we need to listen to that and say, right, okay, actually, I can feel that I need to go to bed. I'm going to go. People talk about not being on screens and things like that before you go to bed because of the blue light. I'm kind of, I think it's more to do with what's the content. If it's content that's going to keep you up, don't go on it. Mm-hmm. If you're scrolling through Facebook, that's not great. If you set the scene in advance to kick your melatonin off, so you've lowered the lighting in the room that you're in an hour or so before you go to bed, and you've already kicked off the melatonin, being on your phone every now and then or watching TV is not really going to stop you from going to sleep. Going on the news and depressing yourself with whatever's going on in the world, yes, that is going to interrupt your sleep. I've got a confession to make. When I actually go to sleep, I have to play a game on here on my phone.
Okay.
Because I can't switch my brain off. So I play a game on my phone that is just like moving things around, and halfway through the game, my eyes are shut and I put it down and I go to sleep. Mm-hmm. So I'm not ever going to turn around to people and say, don't be on your screens before you go to bed, because it's each to their own. If you know that being on screens is something that stops you going to sleep, then don't do it. Do meditation and practice gratitude, thinking, what things have you been grateful for the day? These are all things to really help you wind down and get ready to go to sleep. But I think the biggest thing is we have to actually give ourselves permission to go to bed, which sounds bonkers when we're grown-ups.
No, but I know exactly what you mean. Absolutely know exactly what you mean. I'm in that situation all the time. Yeah, we'll just watch one more. Just go for that. They've got some stuff to catch up on. Yeah, and that's it, and it's staying up. We, my wife likes to have some noise to go to sleep with, so I tend to put something like mindless on like the iPad, and she'll go to sleep, and then I'll just go to sleep afterwards. However, there was a program it was like about murder or something the other day, and it was an American documentary, and one of the people involved was called Frank Spencer. And every time they mentioned the name Frank Spencer, like the mothers do have them, it made me howl with laughter, which stopped her going to sleep. So, it's like, doesn't always work. Sometimes works.
Is Frank Spencer the one that goes, ooh, mother?
That's it. Ooh, Betty, yeah.
That's it. Betty, that's it.
That was it. And it was like a really serious documentary. But they kept saying it, going, and then Frank Spencer came in. And Frank Spencer did this. I was like, I can't. We're going to have to put something else on. This is too funny. Yeah, things don't translate. Let's go with kids. So if you've got little ones, because let's face it, it's mainly the really little ones, isn't it, that cause the most problem. They're the little ones that cause
One of the things I suggest to people in the run-up to bedtime especially, because obviously, right, okay, there's a few things. Okay, quickest and easiest tip is never be afraid of an early bedtime. Mm-hmm. It kind of goes against what we think. We naturally think that if we put our children to bed early, they're going to get up earlier. But actually, because of the way the sleep is constructed, that's their catch-up sleep. So if anything, you're more likely to get a better night's sleep out of them if they go to bed that bit earlier, because they're absolutely shattered. So as an example, my youngest will quite happily go to bed between 6 and 7 and do between 11 and 12 hours a night quite comfortably. If she goes to sleep after 7 o'clock, she will wake up earlier. Because they've gone past their window. So never be afraid of an early bedtime. But the bit which is quite important, I think, in the run up to bedtime is to try and find a way to have that family connection time. And I call it a pre-bedtime routine. So obviously you've got your normal bedtime routine, which is when it's time to go up, go in the bathroom, you get dressed, you go into the bedroom, get ready, have your stories. What happens before that is an opportunity to force family time. And I say force because we're so busy. We think we've got to put the pots away. We've got to do this. We're sorting this out. And we forget as parents sometimes that actually we need to sort of connect again with our children after a busy day. And we forget how good that actually makes us feel as well sometimes. So when you kind of force this, it becomes more natural and it's more enjoyable to do. But I kind of say like half an hour if you can. So split it into 10-minute sections. So you've got your play and connect. So maybe have the first third. It's big body play. It's tickle fights. It's dancing. It's anything where you genuinely get to laugh and have fun together and burn off some of that energy and get rid of some of that cortisol, because cortisol is the thing that stops us falling asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So burn it off, especially because we have this thought pattern. It's after tea. The children need to wind down before they go to bed. Imagine being 2, 3, 4 years old and been sat at the dinner table for however long. And then you've got to come down and sit down again. You know, they're kind of like, got to get this out. Let them get it out and do it with them. Because especially if you're feeling anxious as a parent, when you laugh, you feel better. The endorphins are released and the children feed off everything that you give to them. So if you're giving them those fun vibes, they're going to pull that back from you as well. If you're giving them anxious vibes about bedtime, they're going to be pulling that with them. So have this opportunity to have fun. Move into like the next third, which is sort of more like you focus and notice. So this is like mental stimulation. So it could be jigsaws, it could be building blocks, it could be directed play with children. So you literally describe all the things that they're doing so they can see, oh, mum or dad's noticing all the things that I'm doing. I have got their attention, because the thing to always remember with children, there's one thing that they want, and that is attention, and they don't care how they get it. So if they are getting attention for positive behavior, they will continue with that behavior. If they're getting attention, regardless what type of attention it is for negative behavior, they will continue with that because they got your focus. So use this time to actually really hone in on what it is that they're doing and talk about it. And it's great because when we sleep, our brain is processing. With the younger children, it's great for labeling things as well. So a really good example I use for like building blocks, for example, is you could say, oh, so you're putting the red block on top of the blue block. You're building a tall tower. Child is sitting there going, oh, you're noticing everything I'm doing. Brain is going, that's red, that's blue, this is tall, it's a tower. Takes it to bed with them, processes, recognizes it, keeps it, because it's useful information.
Oh.
And then move into the next third, which is more like you cuddle and chill. So that could be stories, it could be milk if there's still milk, and you sit down together and you just read some stories and you have that time to wind down. If they're a little bit older, it might be an opportunity to talk about what's happened in the school day, but have that time just to connect in that minute, in those moments. And then after that, it's time to go to bed. You do your bedtime routine. But that half an hour, if you can get it, can make the world of difference as to how bedtime is going to go and for how sleep's going to go, because you've already lowered the lighting as well. So you want to lower the lighting in the room that they're in about an hour or so before they go to bed as well.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. Yeah, really great advice, and it's going to be so helpful for people. Nicole, how can people find out more about you?
So I have, best place to find me is probably on LinkedIn, to be fair, because that's where I spend all my time. So just Nicole Ratcliffe. But depending what you might want, you can either find me at theworkplacesleepcoach.com or babytosleep.co.uk. So I have the two different businesses depending on what it is you need. And it's baby2 with the number 2. Or you just email me. Hello at nicoleratcliffe.co.uk.
Perfect. There you go. Thank you so much. Really, really helpful stuff. It's been fascinating, and really enjoyed it. Thank you very much, Nicole.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
And we'll be back with the Dad de la Soul sessions next month. I think it's going to be the second Thursday of February because the first Thursday is my birthday and I don't want to work on my birthday. So there you go.